Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and
great entertainment.
Great entertainment, that is what it's what. And this week's episode is brought to you by JKMoto Entertainment. You can see us on the wall back there.
Oh, right there.
Which is your one-stop shop for all your racing, track day, club racing, whatever other questions, answers, and content that you might want to see or have, or I mixed all that up, but you get the gist. All the words are in there. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube at JKMoto Entertainment. Please subscribe. Also, throw a like on the video. We love the likes. And if you have any questions or comments throughout, also when we get to the Rider of the Week point, which will be near the end of the episode, go ahead and throw your vote down below. Or as always, you can hit me up on Instagram. Just send me a DM over there. I'll answer whatever questions you might have. Tonight with me is one of our favorite hosts.
Oh, I'm promoted to host now? I thought I was just a guest feature.
Yeah, you're a host.
I'll take it.
At this point. Yeah, you're a host at this point. Not a primary host,
yeah,
but auxiliary host.
Yeah, I'm just a guy. Just guy being a dude.
Yeah. We got Kelly in the house tonight. We are covering MotoGP round 8.
Aragon.
Yeah, round Aragon. Hang on, I'm gonna try counting. We messed this up. If you don't follow the show, we messed this up a few rounds ago.
You would think we mess it up frequently enough that we would just know what it is by now, but every week.
Yeah. Okay, so MotoGP Aragon. Oh, it says it right there. That's the other. I went back and counted. So I was on my phone and looking at the schedule. I went back and counted. It's right there.
Oh,
it says GP8 right there. That's awesome. Man, yeah, so round 8 in Aragon. They
did that for us.
They did. They were watching. They're like, oh, this guy needs some help.
After the third week, they're like, we gotta give him something.
Oh, anyway, that's what we're covering tonight. We'll also probably talk a little bit about a recent trip we had out to CMP, Carolina Motorsports Park, if you're wondering, maybe. I don't know. We'll see if we get there. But we'll definitely cover your good old MotoGP. So stick around after the intro, and we'll get right into fantasy. Then we'll cover all our riders. Then we'll end off with a rider of the week and maybe a little bit of hometown track riding. My first track day, I got the pictures back, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. Drug your knee on the ground at 100 miles an hour. And we are back.
You gotta shake it up first so it comes out really fast.
Is that how you do that?
Yeah, you gotta drop on the floor like I did, and then when you crack it, it'll come out. So if you don't drink all of it immediately, it'll just go everywhere on your garage floor, like right over there.
A little bit of a volcano action.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
You could get a matching stain right there to match mine over here.
Well, anyway, in case you're wondering, I haven't strawberry apricot. Is it apricot or apricot?
Maybe whatever you want. I'm gonna say apricot, and hopefully.
Have you always said apricot?
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm right.
Okay.
I'm sure someone will let me know if I'm wrong.
Let us know in the comments. I don't know. Is it apricot or apricot? But anyway, our non-sponsor of the night tonight, Red Bull. Kelly kind of already.
Yeah, I couldn't wait.
Looking a little empty over there.
Yeah, I couldn't wait. Apricootie.
Probably not. Probably not. Anyway, we could also kind of talk about this guy in the back.
Was it this naked last time we saw it, or is it more naked?
I don't think it was naked at all. I think it was, in fact, less naked and still had all the fairings on it. But we are slowly getting through the rebuild on this. I've had 2 episodes out so far, which is just the introduction of the bike and then the tear down. It's hard to see because it's mostly black. There's a little bit of blue, and there's no windshield or anything else. But this is a Yamaha R1. Just another shout out to the YouTube channel. Go check it out, JKMoto Entertainment. Got some videos coming up on that also as we get her put back together. So
this makes me want to powder coat my wheels. We'll get a second set of wheels to powder coat.
Wheels are expensive. I wanted a second set of wheels because I wanted blue wheels.
We used to have green wheels on this bad boy.
Still do.
Yeah, you got one gray one, one black, half.
I still have the green one on the back. But anyway.
We'll talk more about that offline.
Yeah, powder. There's a company that makes wheels in whatever color you want for the new leader bikes, basically new generation of leader bikes. I don't have $2,500.
Yeah, but I don't have a leader bike.
Yeah. I got on there. I was like, man, blue wheels would be sweet. And it'd be sweet because then I could just have my extra wheels on this, or my extra tires on this set and be trading out.
I might accidentally spend my tax return on that next year. Who knows? I don't know.
Accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. Who could have seen this coming? You trip and you spend the money on it. Like, oh no.
Accidentally spent my entire tax return on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Careful, SpongeBob. Don't tempt me with a good time.
But you can't spend it on the motorcycle because you need it for the tires. Plus, you got to pay me to do that sweet rattle can paint job on your bike this winter.
That is true. Judging by the way you keep breaking the fairings in transit, we got to get the fucking the new fairings soon anyway.
Yeah, I got to figure out that rattle. Anyway, we're getting distracted. We got to get it in MotoGP. Round 8, as we found out, in Aragon. Everyone knows. Gonna come right out and say we're not going to talk about Marc too much. We'll talk about Marc. I love Marc. But
spoiler alert.
I think what happened this weekend with Marc in Aragon is exactly what everyone expected, and maybe not what everyone was hoping for. For the fans, absolutely what we were hoping for. For the non-fans,
they were excited.
Yeah.
In the stands, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean,
I was jealous. I was like, wish I could be there.
We're talking literally the most perfect of perfect weekends you could ever have. So, first in FP1, FP2, practice, Q2, was never in Q1, obviously. Took first in the sprint, took first in the race.
Yeah, they were saying he had a perfect weekend.
During Q2.
Practice, sprint, everything.
Yeah, during Q2, sets fastest, like all-time lap record.
Yep.
During the race, sets fastest race lap record.
Yeah, leave some records for the rest of us.
And then almost got caught by his brother. Alex was there, and he was like, let me go ahead and let me give me another 2/10. Good luck.
Let me remind you who I am.
Yeah, because so he said that, we're just going to dive into that real quick, then we'll get into some fantasy, but he goes and sets this race lap record pretty early on. I was like, okay, Marc, all right, cool. Gets his distance, and then just chills, which is perfect.
The race
for
lap record in the race or the sprint?
In the race.
In the race, he had it, and then I was like, what if I did that faster
That's
again?
what I'm saying. So we're talking in the beginning, he lays down a hot lap. Then he kind of slows down. He's back in high 147.
Yeah, his brother slowly starts, cutting into the gap after being left behind, and then he picks up the pace. He's like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah, it was around lap 17, Alex comes in, and Alex is like, hey, Marc, maybe I can do it too. And Marc was just like, I know that you want to show the world that you're saving tires, but let me remind the world that I am the king of saving tires. Let me just go ahead and, like I said, drop another 2 freaking tenths off that record. Yeah.
It was kind of distracting. Not distracting, but after he put that gap on his brother initially, before the brother started coming back, they started showing some more racing in the back of the grid, of which there was a lot this weekend.
There was.
And they cut back to them, and it's like, ooh, is Alex catching up? And it was like, no. No. Go back to the back of the grid, watch the other racing.
Yeah. Let's check. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Gap's still there. Yeah. No, so yeah, perfect weekend for Marc. But anyway, we gotta go ahead and cover some fantasy. So if you're not following our fantasy league, please click the link down in the description. That'll take you to the fantasy team or league known as, what do you know it, JKMoto Entertainment.
I got 2 boosts left. This would have been a perfect weekend to use it. Just saying.
Yeah, prior to this weekend, I was like, I should probably use a boost. I had a weird fear that with the Ducati issues we've been having recently, the boost would go wasted.
You mean the Ducati issues that Pecco's been having recently?
No, because Marquez made some mistakes. And he has also mentioned, he's like, yeah, the stuff that Pecco's saying is not completely wrong.
I'm not saying that Pecco's completely wrong. I'm just saying, as some other people have also said, Marc could ride a tractor fast.
Yes. Marc did also say that if you say it's the bike's fault and you tried 5 different configurations and it was always the bike's fault, it's not the bike, it's you. But he also came out and said that every mistake that he has made, every time he's laid it down this year, he knows exactly what he did wrong, and it was him that did it wrong. So that's kind of cool too. I read an article about that today, that he, full ownership, Ducati was very happy about it, because they're like, it's always this manufacturer doesn't ever want to blame the rider, because the rider's the rider, but it's nice when a rider comes out and is like, no, I messed that up. I did this. The bike is okay. I just made a mistake.
The bike is like this, but I did this, which made this a problem.
The only time I think that might, if you're working with Marc Marquez, you got Marc Marquez on your team, can you imagine him being like, the bike is good enough. I just rode it past its limit. And in your head, you have to realize so his limit is further than the bike. And he just forgot that our bike is not good enough for him. He's not blaming the bike. He's just saying that he forgot that he's better than the bike. That's some Marc Marquez energy right there. But anyway.
He is him, as they say.
Yeah. So our fantasy for the week, we do a weekly winner. It was a great time to use a boost on Marc Marquez, as we mentioned. He had a perfect weekend. Most people, I feel like, probably have him on their fantasy league. Maybe not. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Do you?
My 1 and 2 are both the Marquez brothers. I'm losing out points in the manufacturers, as previously stated.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So anyway, our winner for the week this weekend by a very close call was Cam Head from the United States at 240 points, followed closely by Shifty at 237, and then there was me coming in third for the week, not third overall. I did move up a place to fourth, though. I was pretty happy about that.
Hey, he's all out boost. We can catch up.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cam Head is all out. Granted, he probably used them all on Mark, and he used his last one on a good weekend to use it, 100%. But he is all out of them. So if you're saving boosts like I am, and like it looks like Wolf's down in the bottom, has all 3 left, you still have a chance, possibly.
Slingshot engaged.
But, yep, we still have our top 3 in the top 3, Shifty, Cam Head, JKMoto. Anyway, Cam Head, hit us up on Instagram. Send me a DM. We'll get you a prize sent over for winning that weekly points winning. Did I say that right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Got all the words together. Order, doesn't matter.
Oh, dude, it just pulled up the test.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want the sprint of the race.
Yeah. Hang on, now I'm curious, though.
The test results?
Vinales and FP2 did a 145.69. So I'm very curious to see if that beat Marc Marquez. He did a 145.704. I don't remember. Maybe it was in the warm-up. No? Hang on, sorry. We got to do a little there it is, a 146.607. So 607 there for him and FP2, which I think is that all-time lap record. And then, no. He did a 145 in the test. And FP2 was a 146, I said? Yeah. Yeah, he beat the all-time lap record.
What's his track? What's his track? With corners named after him.
I guess.
For a reason.
I guess, yeah, because the rest of them are all 146s. The fastest Mark had was a 145.704 in Q2. And then Maverick Vinales just barely in the test did 145.69. Oof. Followed by Bezzecchi at 145.7.
On the Aprilia?
On the Aprilia. So KTM, Aprilia, and Ducati for the test. Now, testing is not always... It's difficult. If you know anything about MotoGP, you'll know, or if you follow the tests, which is kind of hard to do, but if you follow the tests, you'll find that the tests don't always...
Translate?
Yeah. It's weird, because they'll like test some stuff, and you're like, dang, dude, this KTM's got it. They're coming out next week. And then they get to the next track, and it's like everything they tested was just not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. Yeah, so we already talked about Mark. We don't need to talk about Mark anymore. He did great. I think in the sprint, he was behind his brother for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit.
And then went and got him. It was a classic Mark weekend. It wasn't as big of a gap as we saw last year and in previous years. But it's Aragon. It's his home track. Same thing with his brother.
2019.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that season because I've been hearing tall tales.
It was nuts, dude. 2019 was insane.
I might go treat myself one of these weekends and just binge the whole season.
So
or a highlight reel.
The crazy part for me, Aragon is a fun track. Super fun track to watch. I've never ridden it, so I'm not saying that, but super fun track to watch.
Yet.
Yeah, well, I think that one's on my list for sure. It looks super fun. It's got a nice little kind of corkscrew down a hill. It's got some good direction changes. Still got a sweet banging straight in the back. Yeah, tons of fun to watch. Some good spots, good passing. Obviously, there are a lot of riders from Spain, and Aragon is a home track, not just for Mark.
You did see that in the results was like Spanish flag, Spanish flag, Spanish flag, something else, Spanish flag. It's like they were well represented. I'll say that.
Yeah, right. So I mean, we saw Pedro Acosta come up. We saw obviously both the Marquez brothers are doing pretty good. Maverick Vinales, not as much during the weekend, but apparently at the test he's out there killing it. So I don't know, maybe.
Something left in the tank. You know?
Joan Mir, shout out. We'll cover him real quick.
Was it crash in the sprint? Didn't crash in the race?
Made it through a race. Joan Mir finished the race, which is I think that deserves a round of applause. Honestly, let's give it a quick. And guess what? Guess where? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
7th place.
Top 10.
7th place for Joan Mir in a race, an actual race, and he did a one. Hold up. Okay, sorry, that was the time he was behind that. I thought I saw a 145. I thought, and I was like, a what? During the race.
You did that
on
in
a Honda?
Crash? What? On a Honda? Honda has been doing better these last few weekends, somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, Zarco also crashed out this weekend.
Yeah, I did see that. Both Frenchmen crashed out this race.
Yeah, that was the kind of interesting part. Like we get away from France, and the further away we go, the worse off the Frenchmen are doing.
Yeah, the home field advantage.
Yeah, I felt bad, man. I saw Quartararo go down again. I'm like, oh, well, there's...
Last week broke my... Oh, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Whatever the mechanical failure, the right height device or whole shot device.
It's last.
That broke my heart. And then watching him crash out this week, I'm like... Sheds a single tear.
Yep. Quartararo, Binder, and Zarco. Binder was the one that surprised me. So that was what was kind of crazy is both in the sprint and the race, the two factory KTMs were like up there.
Yeah, they were. They figured it out.
Yeah, KTM figured it out. They figured it out.
I thought I would see Maverick further up.
So that's why
when they figured it out. But hey, Acosta, Binder, they were up there.
That's why I was confused because we see these two KTMs up there and they're battling with the Ducatis and man, you hear the commentators just sitting there mentioning.
Wasn't it like one battling with the VR36 dude and then one was battling with another guy?
Yeah, I think it was Furman and then
Furman Aldeguer and
DG and Antonio was up there.
Shout out to Furman Aldeguer for that podium in the sprint.
Yeah.
He did pretty good in the race too, actually.
And in the race, I think we'll end up getting into that later. I think we got a good conversation about him and his non-teammate guy that he was wrestling with out there. It was a good time. Very good. I will say very entertaining, right? If you took out the Mark and the Alex part, what was going on behind him was quite a bit of fun. The big one that surprised me during the sprint was Bagnaia. Right, the man comes out and qualifies in 4th.
Didn't he crash out? Wait a second. No, he did not.
No, but he did not do good.
Yeah, he was back there.
Yeah, so like he qualifies in 4th. Not amazing, but 4th place on the grid puts him on the outside, right behind 1st. Last year, when he qualified in 3rd, he was real upset because I guess the inside of that track right there gets a bunch of dust.
I didn't realize how much of a big deal like that would be until like I've seen a few races where it's like somebody in 3rd or 4th could still get the lead going into turn 1 just because they have more grip where they're on the track versus the person who qualified in the lead, or vice versa. Like you'll see like wild changes where they're all diving into turn 1. Who gets a better launch? Who's spinning tires up? Who brings the front wheel up? Who's putting the power down?
Yeah, well, that's what we saw. The weird part was this year. We saw that from Mark when he launched from 1st place in the sprint. He had some tire spin going on and wasn't able to take it from the very first corner, which is why he sat behind Alex for a little bit. But yeah, Bagnaia just almost immediately died off and then just stayed dying off. Ended up outside of the points, I believe.
Yeah, it was 12th for the sprint, which I think is outside the points for the sprint format.
Yep.
But race day.
Yeah, so that's what was surprising because this year there's a ton of Bagnaia drama, right? There's this whole, is the GP25 actually good? Facebook is going crazy about it. They're sending me all these fake articles about...
Well, we're saying the GP25 not being good, but doesn't also... What's Grassini on? They're 24s?
Yes. Grassini's on
24s.
DG and Antonio's on a 25.
Him specifically?
Yes.
But his teammate...
I'm pretty sure Franco's still on the 24.
So Morbidelli's... So that's weird.
Yeah, so Valentino Rossi...
So they're not on the same spec
people,
machine?
No.
Team?
No, because there's... This happens from time to time where like a certain rider will be... Like, for instance, Valentino Rossi, when he went to...
Ducati or Yamaha?
No, when he was on Yamaha, but his last couple of years, he went down to the satellite team.
Yeah, Petronas.
Yeah. Yamaha, as a thank you note to Rossi, gave Petronas one factory Yamaha bike.
Interesting.
Right, they gave them a factory that you respect because they're like, hey, like, we understand Rossi, because he stepped down off the Yamaha factory team to give another rider a chance, Quartararo. Yeah, Quartararo, because he took that place up there with Vinales for a little bit. And when he stepped down, Yamaha was like, thanks for doing that, because that gives a new rider a chance to go, and like we understand, like he wasn't really winning that much anymore, he wasn't doing that great, so kind of like as a shout out, also just as a thank you to the years and the publicity he had given them, they gave him a factory bike for that year. So, because like theoretically, the satellite teams, I think can buy the factory bikes if they want to, it's just that they're not necessarily going to get all the updates all year, and I don't know, like, I think Ducati has to allow it. But I mean, Pramac was on the factory bikes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
They were on the factory bikes last year when they still had Ducatis.
Yeah.
Like him, like Pecco and Jorge Martin were on the same factory spec, just different colored Ducatis.
Yep. So if the brand allows it, they're willing to sell the bike and the satellite team can afford it, then yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think there was a deal that was made. DG Antonio is a good rider. And Valentino Rossi, VR40 team, was just like, yeah, hey, we're going to buy you a factory bike. So he's on the GP25.
Wasn't DG with them last year?
Yeah.
And Morbidelli's a new guy. Because he was with Jorge last year.
He was on Prima Pramac last year. So that's the crazy part, is that I'm pretty sure he's on the same GP24 that he already rode last year.
Yeah, so he's used to it.
So he should be, of all the people to be at the top of their game, if we're saying that the GP24 is actually maybe better than the GP25, and we're talking about all these people that are on new bikes figuring it out, like Alex Marquez is figuring it out, but he came from the 23, which was an easy transition. We saw Pecco, we saw everyone else do that.
I mean, but Morbidelli has been performing this year, though.
Yeah, he has.
On the VR46.
He has, 100%. And maybe that's a good reason why, is because he is just on the same bike again, and it is kind of the peak Ducati of ever, because of the change that is coming soon. We'll see. We'll see what next year. Next year is going to be so interesting, because this is the final year before
they change over to the 850s.
Yeah. So I'm excited. It'll be super. We've said a lot on here, and I apologize that we keep repeating that, but I am like...
New regulations, volume 15.
Yeah, you know how Dodge is like throwing the Hellcat and everything because they're about to get rid of the Hellcat? So the company is just like, we're going to put in everything we possibly can.
I have opinions on that, man. They put out that electric EV charger or whatever it was. Nobody wanted it. Didn't sell. Rots in the lots. And now they're like, hey, we're bringing back the not electric version of that. And we're all like, you shouldn't have got rid of it. No one told you to get rid of it. Whose dumbass idea was that? So, yeah.
Anyway, I'm hoping manufacturers kind of pull out all the stops next year and go absolutely nuts. What I hope doesn't happen, but I could see happening, is manufacturers stepping down a year early to get some testing in. Not necessarily with the engine.
What do you mean by manufacturers stepping down early to get some testing in?
For instance, what I could see happening is Honda has a terrible bike. It's not working for them. They're not going to leave MotoGP, most likely. In 2027, all the rules change. If they can get ahead of it by following some of those rules while still being within the current rules, so i.e. they're still going to have a 1000cc engine, but maybe they just kill all of their power and they kill all of their aerodynamics to go fit the 2027 rules. So they
to get some data in during the current season for next season. That's what you're saying, yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be rules that MotoGP has put out against that, and I don't want to see it. And I don't think, the weird part is, I'm pretty sure if you wanted to run an 850 engine right now, you could.
It's probably worded like, you are allowed up to insert number here. And they're like, well, up to, there's no minimum. What if I just run next year's engine?
Right, maybe not. I don't know. I know that the MotoGP rulebook is huge because they have entire teams and factories working on this stuff, so they can have a giant rulebook because they have one dude that just studies the new rules, But anyway, next year will be very, very interesting because of that. Going way back to where we kind of were, those KTMs super surprised me because the two factory guys were at the front, but what surprised me was that Vinales was nowhere near them. Bastianini, I'm still not sold on.
Well, we just ignore that one.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of pat that away for later. But the fact that we saw the two guys up there, Brad Binder, Pedro Acosta. Pedro Acosta was giving it his all, had a great weekend. Brad Binder
he did.
Pretty good weekend until it wasn't as good. But yeah, Vinales just wasn't
really
there.
Competitive this weekend.
And that one surprised me, right? Finished 7th in the sprint.
Because the last few weekends where KTM has shown up to party, it's been Vinales of the KTMs. Not that like Pedro and Binder doing that bad, but it's like recently it's been Vinales. And for this weekend to not see him up there when Pedro and Binder were fighting up there for like top fives.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also a Spaniard. So that was the other thing too, is I'm like, him and Pedro, I would expect over him and Binder, or Pedro and Binder, right? Because they're the two Spaniards, should know this track
like home track, like home field advantage.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so to not see him up there, then in the race to see him wreck out, they said it was Pedro. It wasn't. Poor Pedro.
Man, I almost stood up again. And then the comments were, we apologize, and the Pedro fans was like, yeah, they know they did it bad.
Yeah,
I didn't feel better when they're like, it's actually Maverick. It's Maverick Vinales. I didn't feel any better, but I was like, man, it's not Pedro. I'll take that. But R.I.P.
I almost felt bad for the commentators because I was like, man, that sucks. That's a bad call. That's a bad call. Oh man.
I mean, to their credit, the KTM factory and satellite liveries do look really similar.
They do. I
think there's like one sponsorship sticker that's different, and even I have trouble
they're
discerning it until they tell. Like until I see a front number, Well, unless like the graphic tells me who they are, I'm like, this is one of 4 people. And if I wasn't paying attention to who was in front of who per the the transponder stat tracker thing, and even that lags a little bit. So it's like, I think it's this guy, but it could be this other guy. Especially if they were up together battling.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, we are. So we already talked about Joan Mir. The other one that didn't surprise me, but did at the same time, and I don't know what to do with Aprilia. So Iagura is still out on injury.
Yeah.
Gonna be for, I don't know. Haven't heard a whole lot. He's a rookie, so they don't really like
talk about him if he's not up there.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got Jorge Martin, who the biggest news we've heard from Jorge is that he's leaving Aprilia at the end of the year.
So, what is the deal with that? Is he confirmed leaving Aprilia at the end of this year, or is he trying to like exercise his right to have the option to leave? Like, is he definitely leaving Aprilia this year? Is my real question.
So the statement that he made was that to clear up all rumors, blah 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 blah. In my contract, I had it written that if I wasn't within the top 5 and in contention for the championship, I could open myself up at the end of the 2025 season to be an open rider for 2026.
Yeah, where is he going to go?
Wherever will offer him a spot.
The Ducati's booked up.
Yes.
Every Ducati on the grid, I think, is booked up next year when he'll be available. So that leaves what the satellite teams, and the Aprilia is probably not going to like that to get stiffed. He's on the factory team, so he's probably not going to the satellite. So his options are to Japanese manufacturers.
Yamaha, Honda.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Which means they have to probably bump one of their riders.
I mean, would you bump Alex Rins or Joan Mir?
Yeah,
if you had a chance at Jorge Martin.
That's fair.
Right. So that's the question.
But it's kind of like, I don't know.
But is that really worth it for Jorge Martin?
It comes off as kind of slimy because it's like, well, you'd be bumping off a rider who's like committed to you for Jorge Martin, who after playing that move on our play is like, well, if I'm not good with them, you just leave me. And then if I burn a rider that would have stayed, it's like.
I think his statement kind of, this is it's a point of discussion for sure because.
I think they will. I think they get the opportunity. They absolutely will bump a rider. But it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's like he was with them, didn't even ride with them. Now you're going to an even less competitive team, so it's even less likely that you'll be in the top 5 for contention. So he's probably going to bump shop again as soon as one of the other factory teams open up. So you just like lost a rider who would have stayed with you for the multi-year contract that you just axed them out of.
Yeah.
And if depending on the way it's written, you have to buy them out of the contract to do that to them, and that could be expensive because you'll pay Jorge's contract and the buyout to then still look for a new rider the next year. And if there's no performance because of it, you're essentially down a rider.
100%. It is weird. It's a weird spot, and I don't know how I feel about it because I understand Jorge doing it, kind of.
If he was like racing with them and he wasn't performing, I get it. But like he hasn't been racing.
That's what's weird. So he came out. He had a big wreck. If he's blaming the bike for that, okay, but he can't. So to open himself up. And I think the other thing, too, is that basically it just opens them up to say, hey, does anyone else want me? It's a little bit of a cocky move to come in and be like, no one has seen you ride on anything other than a factory spec Ducati.
Yeah.
Yes, but you are a world champion, and he's good, he's hungry, he's young. Hopefully, I don't see anyone besides Honda or Yamaha picking him up unless he gets out there and rides. But I also why not just stick with Aprilia?
I feel like for them, like if they're gonna take him, it has to be like a multi-year, help rebuild the program kind of deal, which is what I thought it'd be with Aprilia because they weren't really up there last year. I mean, it's not that they didn't have a bike; they were inconsistent, is what it really was last year. But that would have been his best choice at a factory team to rebuild because they still did better, I think, from my memory, than Yamaha or Honda did last year on average. Like they had wins, they had podiums. At least, whereas the other Japanese manufacturers didn't have that at all.
No.
Yeah, so I just think
Aprilia definitely did. I mean,
it's just weird. I love Jorge to death. Don't get me wrong, but I just think it's real weird for a Japanese manufacturer to take a chance on him because if that backfires, they're already not in a position to be taking a risk like that, in my opinion. But I also know that there's a bunch of politics and stuff that I'm not watching in the background.
So the other thing too, and the other thing to kind of think about is it's a little weird when you get in there. At least for me, if you guys watch this channel a lot or listen to this podcast, you'll know that we're club racing and track days. When you're club racing, you are the whole thing. You're the team, you're the bike, you're the mechanic, you're the racer, you're all of it. And as you move up higher and higher in racing, you become less and less of that. Some of these guys that are racing MotoGP don't even know what, and I say this with caution, and I'm not trying to talk crap, but they don't even know what preload and rebound and compression are. or that those things exist, and they don't care to. And there's no reason they need to.
I think at that level they know that exists, but the finer details is definitely like talking to their mechanics and engineers. Like, I do this, so they do this.
Yeah.
But
But those conversations can be as simple as like I picture it more as like the rider of a MotoGP bike. If they are more mechanically inclined and can know the inner workings of the bike, they will be a little bit better, I think. But there are some of them out there that are, it's going to sound real weird, artists, and their art is riding a motorcycle. And so they can't tell you exactly like, no, I don't know what's causing this on the bike. All I know is that in turn 7, I cannot get this thing to do what I want it to do. And then the mechanics have to sit there and translate that and figure it out. And that's what makes a good team, is all those people working together. That's what, one of the things that makes, sorry to bring him up again, but makes Marc Marquez maybe somewhat better than some of the other riders, is that he has taken the time. Anytime the mechanics adjust anything on his bike, he will go in there and ask them exactly what is going on, what they're adjusting, why they're doing that, how they expect that to change his bike, what he told them that told them to do that. Because he knew from a young age that if he learned all of that stuff, he would be able to communicate with his mechanics a lot better, which is one of the reasons he can come in and help build a bike very well. It's because he's actually able to kind of have those conversations. Whereas I think the biggest rider that comes to my mind, which is, maybe I'm way off here and I don't want to like go throwing out names, but if I remember seeing Alicia Espargaro having a conversation with his team once, and they kept asking him like, is it this, is it this? And he's just like, I don't know, it's not. And he was just like, I can't explain it. It is just not doing the thing that I need it to do. And
yes, let me adjust one of several different factors, and hopefully we pick the right one before
yeah, let me
it
move your
matters.
clip-ons up a half inch and see. I don't freaking know. But understanding that with where Jorge's at, it might not just be the bike. It could be that he just does not feel that he is meshing with that team very well. And so taking a step back and going to somewhere like Yamaha, if him and Yamaha mesh very, very well, knowing that 2026 might not be good, but now you have Quartararo, great rider, Jorge Martin, great rider, a bike that's not great, but a new set of rules coming in 2027, that whole 2027 change is putting a big kind of like clouded mix-up of what are we doing out there. And I think Jorge is just trying to make sure he's open and able to maybe take advantage of that if he can. But
we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is that, as you mentioned, we haven't even seen him on the freaking bike yet.
Yeah.
So how do we know? Like, Bezzecchi is kind of starting to figure that bike out. The Aprilia is not a bad bike, I don't think.
I think it's in a weird spot, because, like, do I think Jorge is objectively better than Bezzecchi? Yes. Mm-hmm. So do I think he could do better results than Bezzecchi if he had time on the bike? The same amount of time on the bike? Yes. But he hasn't had that time on the bike. So it's like...
Correct.
We're like in the magical what could have been fantasy land.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too is that he's trying to heal up, and he needs to heal up so he can save himself for
the next season.
Yeah, next season, and he's super young, so he's got plenty of time out there, if you will. I was just checking to see if he was in the test, because I don't know when he's planning on coming back. I haven't seen. That's the other weird thing, is he's been like super. He came back for that one, wrecked it again,
yeah, made it worse.
Was hurting the whole time. So yeah, I don't know. I feel a little bad for Aprilia, because I know they were looking forward to it. I think he's a top dog rider.
It's like such the drama, especially when you unpack like last year the how do you phrase this? I'm going to Ducati. Ducati's like, well, about that, you're not. And then him going, bet I'm going to Aprilia. Like that whole like, and then added to this is like.
Yeah.
Did he just settle for Aprilia to begin with because he wanted a factory team in general and there was a spot open?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
100%. I think either mixed with Aprilia offered him a good amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that whole shenanigans last year, Mark comes up and Ducati's like, sweet, we'll keep Mark on Gresini or move him to Pramac where he'll have a factory bike. He'll be happy. He'll be good to go. Everything will be great. And Jorge's like, yep, I'm getting my factory ride. And Bastianini's like, wait a second, what? And Pecco's like, I kind of like Bastianini because he's not that good. And Ducati's like...
he was performing all right when he was on Ducati.
He was okay. But I think Pecco enjoyed...
He came fourth in the Constructors' Championship. And he would have got third if, wasn't the Marc Marquez up there.
Yeah, not on last year's model bike. He'd never ridden before.
I'm just saying, he was performing all right when he was on the team.
I'm just saying, who would you rather have as your teammate? The guy that just won the World Championship or the dude that just came right behind you? on the same bike?
Me as the rider?
Yeah.
It depends on my relationship with the guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
Also, fellow Italian that you're great friends with because you've been in the same garage for a while, or a Spanish rider that you hate because he's
because I feel like I'm going to pick my boy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
The
That's
other
all I'm
guy is
putting
just
out there.
inter-garage competition. If our egos don't clash,
That's all I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
But so Ducati's thinking, everyone's thinking everything is great. They're all good to go. And then press conference happens. They're like, yeah, so Mark, you excited to go to Pramac next year? And Mark's like, I'm not going to Pramac. And everyone's like, whoa. What? We thought you were going to Pramac. He's like,
pause. Like,
no, I never said that. And I am not going to not be on a factory ride next year. The only reason I took this ride was to try out a Ducati. This is a big step down for me. Happy to do it because I wanted to race again. I feel good now. I'm ready for a factory bike. So whoever wants to give me that, feel free. And that was kind of like,
everyone was like,
oh boy.
What did he say?
So insert next press conference interview is Jorge Martin. They're like, hey, Mark just said he's getting a factory Ducati. And Jorge's like, no, he just said a factory ride. The factory Ducati is mine. Meanwhile, Ducati in the background is like,
just sweating bullets. Like,
what do we do here?
How do we square this circle?
They make a phone call over to Mark's dude, organizer. What do they call those guys?
Like the manager?
Yeah, Mark's manager. They're like,
guy?
hey, is he being serious? Manager's like, oh yeah. If he's not in red, he's gone. And they're like, okay. Hey, Gigi Delinea and the other dude, what do we do? We need this guy. He's the best. We've been wanting him for years. We thought we had him. We thought we were good to go. They're like, we got to talk to Jorge. Call Jorge's manager. Like, hey, about that whole factory Ducati spot. Jorge's manager's like, yeah, what about it? We're taking it. They're like,
about that?
I don't know. We'll have to get back to you. And this is all happening, like, we're literally talking in a span of 24 hours. Now, insert big boss at Aprilia. Weird, crazy thing happens because Aleix already knew he was retiring. So this factory spot at Aprilia is open. This dude makes a phone call in the background. Hey, Jorge Martin's manager, we got a ride for you. Just think about it. Hangs up. Jorge Martin hears this. He's like, hang on a second. Call back Ducati. Do I have a ride next year? Yeah, we're working on it. Okay. Aprilia, we'll take it. And that was that. And that surprised Ducati. Kind of low-key made it easier for him, though, because then they're like,
well,
okay,
we only have one option.
Yeah, we know where this is going now. Hand Marquez the contract, kind of sort of between him and Bastianini. I don't ever really think it was, but people were saying whoever gets third gets it, blah, blah, blah. I think that was just good drama for the show, but that sent Jorge over to Aprilia. So, yeah, I do think that there was a little bit of just mad at Ducati from Jorge's side when he found out that they were like, we'll see. And
that seat we said we'd give you.
He just jumped ship and was out. So,
not.
because in all honesty, he 100% deserved it.
Yeah.
And it's weird
he
that
beat Pecco on the same bike.
Yeah, and it's very weird to me that Ducati did choose Marquez over Jorge.
Objectively, the marketing behind Marc Marquez, Marc Marquez is a phenomenal rider. He is a generational talent. Everyone knows that, especially after we saw him still have it after the recovery from his crash with Honda, go to Gresini, figure out the bike, start having really good performances like Aragon last year, all that good stuff. Not counting his talent, Marc is great for like PR, promotion, being on TV, all the not riding stuff about being a MotoGP like celebrity personality. He's got that on lock.
True.
I'm not saying Jorge doesn't have that, but like Marc's been doing that for he's a known quantity for years.
So 100%. Also,
his marketability through the roof.
Low key, Marc I think put in some very behind the scenes important moves when he first got to Gresini.
Like I said, he knows what he's doing off the grid.
Yeah, because he picked up a sponsorship from Audi, which Audi owns Ducati. So when he got personally sponsored by Audi, I think that there was a big hand in that where Audi was like, hey,
you're going to put our guy on our factory. Our guy is going on our factory team.
Exactly.
Do you understand? Lenovo Ducati's like, we understand.
Exactly, right. And then the other thing, too, is that I do think that Ducati had worked with Jorge quite a bit, and I think that they wanted the maturity of Marc. The weird part is that Marc is old, and there was still a gamble of whether or not he would actually be good this year. Say it however you want to say it. In my opinion, at least, there was a gamble of whether or not he would actually be.
No, I get it. You had something very similar happening in like F1. Ferrari picked up Lewis Hamilton, who was like a 7-time champion, and everybody's like, he's very marketable. He is a good driver. Is he still championship contention driver, though? And then all the naysayer and talking. Both red teams, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Both Italian.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Both 7-time champions.
That's why they should have just low-key stuck with Bastianini and it all would have been fine.
Yeah, he'd probably be up there fighting for the... He'd be up there. Be top 5 probably.
Probably.
With your
Alex Marquez
Ducati
would be at first
inflation,
going nuts, though, because him and Bagnaia would both have problems with the 25.
Well, it would, if Mark had stayed on a factory team, it could have been Alex and Mark, both Grissini, up there 1 and 2 still.
That's true. Yeah.
But only if Mark won.
Well, I think Mark would have taken a factory spot at Aprilia, honestly.
See Aprilia up there on the podium.
Yeah, because KTM was locked down, right? And that was like locked down. Contracts closed. Not even like we know we're going to take these people. It was just no. They had to take Pedro because they promised it to him. That was in a contract.
Yeah, it was like we'll promote you from Gas to. Was it Tech? There was a factory team at the time.
It was Gas when he was on it. To factory.
Okay.
KTM, maybe Tech 3. I don't know.
Yeah, their names are weird before and they're weird now. But
KTM.
Satellite, big KTM, little KTM.
Yeah, there you go. Big KTM, orange KTM.
Yeah, the orange one sponsored by Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But both those were locked down because Brad Binder been there forever. I do also think that there's a little bit of like, I'm going to bring up 2027 again. I think that Ducati wanted Marc for that transition. Because I think that Marc as a rider, there are a couple other riders on the grid also, but I think that Marc as a rider is one of the best riders to have when you're transitioning to a whole new bike. Because of how long he's been around and because of how many different bikes he's experienced.
Yeah, because hasn't he been riding through different phases of MotoGP as well?
So he's only ever been on the 1000cc.
Oh, he wasn't there for the 850?
No.
Not the 850, the thing before that?
Yeah, the two strokes.
Was that two-stroke 500s? What was that?
I don't know. I don't remember if they went straight from. That was way before my time.
Yeah.
If they went straight from two-stroke 500, some no offense, some oldie in the audience, let us know.
Yeah,
but
well, I'm 2023, 2022, 2024 onward.
Yeah,
I kind of know what happened in 22 and 23, but I watched 24.
The big changes Marc has seen really is just like advancements in electronics and advancements in aero, mostly aero, but like the electronic ride height devices and all of that crazy stuff.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Those
watching
are the
that in
things
watching that in real time when it zoomed in, like when you know what you're looking for, like
Yeah,
I couldn't play a mini game, and I have a hard enough time to be like, I want to break here and then break in there every corner. And they're like, no, he's juggling all this stuff and doing that. I was like,
yeah,
bro,
it's insane.
how do you do that?
I was thinking about that last track day when we were out at CMP. I'd look down to like look at my speed one time. And I'm like, how do I see anything? Oh, got a break. Okay.
Yeah,
and moved on. What were we talking about?
Marc Marquez, different generations.
Yeah, sorry. So we had some technical difficulties. It's warm where we're living.
We're gonna cut back and like conversation here. We're gonna pick it up here, and it's gonna be like, how do we square that circle?
Yeah, that's fine. It happens. But what I think what I was getting at was that Marc was on a bike that had a lot less electronics and a lot less aero. By that I mean like no aero. And the electronics have kind of always, they've been around a lot longer, if I remember right. But I know they've gotten a lot more advanced. We're going back to no ride height devices, not near as much aero allowed, and kind of big changes like that I think that having a rider like Marc that has seen that, being the only one on the grid that has really seen that. Like you look at Pecco, he's a great rider for the current bike. Taking a step back and not having all that stuff could be a pretty big change for a man that was never used to it. So seeing that insight from a guy that had it before, I think that's a big reason that Ducati wanted Marc on there.
There are layers to this.
Yeah. So the question is, will Marc continue to do well on the Ducati? Will he stick around through the 2027 rule change?
The question is, how long is Marc going to stay in the game for? Because at some point he's going to be like, all right, I've had my fun. Especially after he tied for it? Or he hasn't surpassed Rossi's MotoGP titles.
He will tie him, I think, if he wins this year.
Yeah, so he say he wins this year, he wins next year. He's going to be here in 28.
That's what I'm saying, right? So, like, yeah, I think there's a good chance that he just wants to beat Rossi. And then he's saying, hey, come out.
Because, like, he's already the guy, right? But once he's officially the guy, no debates on any stat line. It's like, he's
the thing is,
at that point, he'd be doing it for the love of the game.
I think if he came back and he was struggling to do it this year, that would be the story. Is that he would struggle bust through it, get it done, and be done. But he came back and he's
demonstrated he's still good for it.
Right. And like good for it. Until we see the kind of Rossi style fallout where Rossi would like randomly have a good weekend, but then not so good for quite a while, I think Marc might be sticking around to stick around. So anyway, we'll see.
3 championship titles later.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm having fun.
Well, I'm wondering too if he doesn't ditch Ducati and say, let's see if we can do it on something else and head to Aprilia or KTM.
That'd be a wicked story for like the career highlights. Like, hey, it's me, it's not the bike.
Yeah, it would be nuts.
We know it's him. We know it's him.
We're pretty sure. We do also know that Ducati inflates, and I'm not going to sit behind and say that Ducati's not inflating Marc a little bit this year. I will still say that he is the best out there, but I would say that if Ducati wasn't so much better, there would be a lot more battling with Marc. It wouldn't just be a Marc showdown like it has been. That's what I mean by that, I guess. Anyway, who are we missing? We got a couple more riders to cover, and then we get.
Shout out to Fermin Aldeguer for getting that podium at the sprint.
There you go.
Did pretty decent in the race itself. Was doing some battling up there with was it Morbidelli?
Yep, 100%. And so he qualified 7th. The sprint, he did great. Yeah, not just a podium, but I mean, he's passing a couple KTMs, which weren't doing bad.
Yeah, because he wasn't on the podium. He got onto the podium during the sprint.
Yeah. So Q2, we had Marc, Alex, Morbidelli, Bagnaia, Acosta, Binder, Aldeguer.
Yeah.
Right. So he was behind. I mean, let's look at those names real quick. Marc Marquez. The Marc Marquez. Okay. Alex Marquez, the almost leader of the championship this year. Franco Morbidelli, been in the game a long time. Not so great last year and the year before, but pretty
doing decent
good
this year for the VR46s.
Pecco Bagnaia, 2-time world champion, the lead Ducati rider for 3 years running. Pedro Acosta, Brad Binder,
who did perform this weekend.
Yeah. Right. Very, very good. And then there's Aldeguer. So he, not only qualified did well, but to be able to pass 4 pretty big freaking names and then hold his own. And that's the other thing too, is that what I'm enjoying about Aldeguer this year is that he's not
cocky.
No, it's he's on a Ducati, and there is Ducati inflation, but he's up there holding his own with the other guys in the Ducatis. It's not just him leading the back of the Ducati pack every weekend, which that would be what I would call is just pure Ducati inflation. He's up there kind of still giving them a run for their money.
Giving them what for?
A little bit, right? At least holding his own right behind him. So that's pretty sweet. We talked about the 2 KTMs. Yamaha.
It was not a good weekend for Yamaha.
No, not even a little bit. We did make it into Q2 and qualified well in Q2 for Quartararo, but took an 11th in the sprint and then crashed out of the race. Yeah. So... and then, Alex Rins exists somewhere on the grid. Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? Kind of over
Schrodinger's Alex Rins.
Yeah.
Did he or did he not crash out?
That's the question. That is the question. And then I think that's just about everyone. We're about ready to get into Rider of the Weekend, but because the other ones I don't really care about, Ralph Hernandez, Maverick Vinales, we already talked about.
Showed up.
Nate Bashnini is fake. He's not even a real guy. Big facts, man. Big facts.
Flapjack facts.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta call it like I see it. That's the best part about having a podcast is it is what it is. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say like I like Bashnini. He's a funny dude. I kind of like the pink.
I became like a big fan of him last year, watching him like just turn it up. But it might have just been that Ducati.
That late race pace.
Because now we're seeing the KTMs going up there, and he's not on the KTM with them.
No, and I'll give him a little bit of leeway and say that
it's first year on the KTM.
Used to the bike, but it's rough because he went from the top to the bottom.
Yeah,
and he's not really left the bottom. That's my issue. If he was running top 15, and like showing us a couple top 10s like Maverick, who's also on a brand new bike and wasn't ever really a top rider, then I'd be a little bit more lenient. This guy's good. He's just figuring it out. But this year has just not been good for him. And maybe there's something else going on. Who knows?
There's also that stuff where like the new bike, does it match your riding style? Granted, you do need to have some amount of like adaptability to the bike at that level because different bikes are different, and some people have shown the ability to adapt to a new bike faster than others.
Yeah. We'll see how the latter half of the year goes and how next year goes. That is the other thing, too.
Because people were talking bad about Marc Marquez first half of the year, which we were seeing until he picked it up.
That is true. And we are only on round 8 of...
Like 24, 5? It's the most we've had.
Yeah, I think it's 22. 22 total.
Okay. Ooh.
So, yeah, we're not even halfway through yet. We got a ways to go. So we'll get all that kind of figured out. But I think it is time that we talk about Rider of the Week and give their good old argument.
So I was conflicted.
Okay.
So we talked about Fermin Aldeguer. He was doing really good, got on that podium on the sprint, and did really good in the race.
Rookie.
As a rookie. But then also Pedro Acosta really shut up this weekend.
So we'll get some stats going. I'll give you some stats on Pedro, and I'll let you know who I took. So Pedro we'll start at the very beginning. FP1, took 6th place with a 148.0. Okay, come into practice, the one that matters. Pedro in 5th at a 147 flat, literally flat. That's impressive. I'll give it to him right there for doing that. A 147 flat. Heads into Q2, qualifies in 5th, top KTM in qualifying, not bad, cool. Sprint, up in 5th, okay, holds his position, and then in the race, didn't wreck out, comes up 1 position in 4th. All right, not bad, I'll give you that. Really only passed Franco Morbidelli. He did...
Well, yeah, my whole reason for Pedro is because, he's not on a Ducati putting those numbers up. That's what, in my opinion, that's what edged him out over from an Alligator. Nothing against Alligator. He's obviously a talent. He's obviously good. But
I'll give you that. So I'm gonna argue that my rider of the weekend, I was also thinking Alligator first, and I was like, well, he did pretty good. But in the race, Alligator finished in 6th, right behind
Morbidelli.
Franco Morbidelli. And what I saw at the end of the race from Morbidelli is why I'm giving my rider of the weekend to Franco Morbidelli.
Repping that floral yellow.
Yeah, the fighting back and forth between him and Alligator. It was great, right? And I wanted to give it to Alligator.
That's the racing I was alluding to every time they cut away from Mark.
Yeah.
Marquez and Marquez. That's what I was looking for.
Battling, right? So I wanted to give the rider of the weekend to Alligator because he did well, but at the end of that, Franco came out on top. He had better qualifying, and every time Alligator would cut him, dude, nope, you're not cutting me. I don't care.
It was a fight.
So there was some solid racing there.
This is the races you want to show somebody when you're showing them MotoGP. It's like, hey.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, we're talking shoulders on, they'd go down that back straight next to each other.
Yeah.
That one time Alligator comes up and it's Franco's knee just into his elbow and almost throws him off. And I think that's why.
And then when there was that one time, that same corner, when they were leaned over, they're almost touching each other. When they came up, then they did that whole scuffle. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, it was good. It was good racing. So anyway, my rider of the weekend, going to Franco Morbidelli. I think he put on a good show.
Solid.
Kelly's rider of the weekend, go to Pedro Acosta. Throw your votes in down below. We'll let the winners be known next weekend when we pick our next one. And I'll also announce it on Instagram. So I'll put up a vote on Instagram. You go hit us up over there and you can put a vote on that vote, if that makes any sense. Cast your vote on that
poll.
Poll. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. A poll. But anyway, that's going to finish up for the weekend because it's getting a little warm.
You want to talk about your extracurricular activities, getting back in the game, or saving that for another podcast?
We'll save that for another podcast. It's getting a little hot out here. Camera's a little unhappy, so we got to kind of cut this one a little short. But I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here. We will get into, maybe we'll have a bonus episode next week covering our extracurricular activities, a little bit of track talk. We'll get back into it. But that is MotoGP Round 8. We'll catch you next MotoGP round in, that's all the way at the bottom. Round 9 in Italy. So that'll be a good one. See if the Spanish boys can keep up with the Italian
boys. I got that hot
boys.
Saved for when the next race is a Google search. They already know what I want.
There you go.
June 22nd. Oh.
Yeah, we'll be a little busy.
Yeah, we're a little busy that weekend.
We'll be a little busy that weekend, but we'll still definitely cover it, and then we'll cover some other stuff too. So anyway, thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys in the next episode. On the ground at 100 miles an hour.